Hi all, it's Jennifer from Jennifer's Corner. I'm so happy to have you back with me on my channel where I'm going to be talking about books and crafts and anything else that interests me in my life more than anyone in my real life wants to hear me talk about it. And this particular video is going to be a book wrap up for February. I finished 6 books in February. I was honestly hoping it would be more, but 6 is what I got through. And I'm not going to talk about the ones that I've already talked about very much other than to list them. So I finished Wuthering Heights, and there's a longer video on the channel about that. I also finished Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. There's a longer video about that on the channel. I finished The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. I did talk about that in a previous update video. It's a very nice little romance. I would recommend it to anyone who enjoys romance, especially if you enjoy a little bit of open door romance. It's not throughout the book, but there's some nice moments in there. I also finished The House of Monstrous Women, which is by Daphne Fama. I hope I'm saying that right. I talked about this a little bit in a prior update too. This is actually by far my favorite book that I read this month. Again, it's gothic horror, but it's set in the Philippines in the 1980s during the rule of the Marcos. So there is a political underlay there. It's also queer. It has a little bit of a locked room mystery vibe. It's not really a mystery, although there are definitely elements that you're unaware of until you get into the story. It is horror and there is body horror, but you're on an island and there's no easy way on or off the island. So I really enjoy that too, the same way I really enjoy a locked door mystery. Really recommend it if you at all like horror or gothic horror or just some fun. I don't know if fun is the right word, but interesting and propulsive writing. I was also never ever bored when I was reading this book. Again, this was a 5-star book. This was my favorite book that I read this month. Really think you should pick it up. And then I also read Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I talked about this a little bit previously too. I really liked this book. I think it was marketed as sort of this quirky book, and it's more, this book, there's just, the main character is suffering from a lot of trauma. She's got some other stuff going on perhaps, but this book is a lot deeper, I think, than the marketing would have you lead you to believe. I found the experience of reading it, I felt really seen in some portions of it. So I recommend it. It is kind of a tough read in spots though. So just keep that in mind if you're going to go into that. And then the last book, which I haven't talked about yet this month, is Game Changer, which is book number 1 in the series of books. Starts Game Changer, and then the next one is Heated Rivalry. And I've already read Heated Rivalry. I actually read it a year ago or maybe even longer, on the recommendation of a good friend. This book, like Heated Rivalry, it's queer. It's got 2 main characters who are men who fall in love. In this case, one of them plays hockey, the other one does not. So you've got Scott, who is a hockey player. He is the captain of the Admirals, the team that he is a part of. And then you've got Kip. Kip is a barista. He's working at a coffee shop that Scott frequents. Kip catches Scott's eye. But of course, Scott is, maybe not of course, but in this book, Scott is very much in the closet. He knows he's gay, he's okay with being gay, but he doesn't think that anybody else in his world, in the world of hockey, is necessarily going to be okay that he's gay. So Kip catches his eye. Kip, of course, thinks he's this amazing, handsome guy, but he has no idea that Scott's gay, until he does know that Scott's gay, until essentially Scott asks him out on a date. I enjoyed this book. I thought it was fun. The writing is not like fantastic, but it's not bad. And, you know, it's a really smutty book. There are a lot of open door sex scenes. So if you're not into that, definitely do not pick this one up. But I thought those scenes were very well written. And like I said, I really did enjoy just reading about the attraction and the growing love between these two men and how they manage to work through the issues in their relationship, which boil down to mostly Scott's in the closet. Kip doesn't want to be in the closet and he feels like he's being shoved back into it. And they need to communicate better, like most young people do in relationships. So I really, as I said, I really enjoyed it. As far as reading goes now, it's March 1st. I am in the middle of 2 books that I hope to finish within the next couple of days, or 2 or 3 days at least. The first is just a fun book called The Grim Reaper's Guide to Cheating Death. This is the second book in a series by Maxi Dara. I actually read the first one last year, I guess, because I believe that's when it came out. What I didn't know going into this one is that the series was not going to follow the same main character. So the main character in the first book is a woman who works for this organization called Scythe, Scythe, and she is a retriever of souls. She goes out, she picks up souls, she ushers them into the afterlife. This book has a different main character. Her name is Nora. She also works for Scythe, although she works in the administrative end. Her job is to get the files that come in every morning about the deaths that are going to happen that day and distribute them to the individual soul retrievers or Grim Reapers so they can go out and retrieve the souls. And in this case, this morning, she comes in and she has a file folder on her desk that tells her that her twin brother Charlie is going to die that day. So she literally drops everything, grabs his file, and goes to save him from this death. And that's where the book starts, and that's where we go from there, is Nora picking up Charlie and just trying to literally outrun death and how that goes. I am enjoying it. I'm a little disappointed that we're not following the same main character. I'm hoping that if there's a third book, maybe we go back to that. We'll see. But I am enjoying it. There's a mystery here. And there's also the question of, will they be successful in outrunning death? So, just waiting to see how that all wraps up. The other book I'm in the middle of is something I've been reading for a while, technically for a few years, because I started it and didn't finish a few years ago, even though this is part of a series that I really love. So it's called, the book is The Mistress of Bhatia House by Sujata Massey. This is the 4th book in a series that Sujata Massey has been writing for several years now. The main character is Perveen Mistry. She is a female lawyer, the very first female lawyer in 1920s India. And Perveen is Zoroastrian, which puts her in a particular class in India in the 20s, in that time. Perveen faces a lot of hardships and a lot of bigotry, unfairness, misogyny. First of all, she is an Indian woman who is living in India under British colonial rule because we're still in the 20s. In addition to that, she is a woman, so she was educated in Oxford because she couldn't go to any law school in India. She's now back in India. She cannot become a member of the bar, so she can't be a barrister, but she is a solicitor, which means she's basically able to help people except in court. She cannot appear in court. So she works with her dad, who is also a lawyer, and she works as his associate, essentially. And, I highly recommend this series. I really love it. It is really, really interesting if you like historic mystery, or, well, just historic fiction, really. This is really well researched by Sujata Massey. She models Perveen Mystery on the woman who was the first female lawyer in India, and she did a lot of research into her life. She did a lot of research into what was 1920s India like. So the historical details, as far as I know anyway, are accurate. And it is an interesting story. Perveen is an interesting character. What she's doing is interesting. Personally, since I am a lawyer in my day job, I find these stories of women breaking these particular barriers to be of even more interest than maybe some other stories. And then on top of that, Perveen is someone who left her marriage. She can't get divorced. So she's not with her husband, who was cruel. She's living with her family, but she can't move on. She can't get married, etc. And she is definitely constrained by gender roles as well. She is someone whose family has quite a bit of money, so class is not usually a barrier for her, but her gender absolutely is, and her race is, because again, she is living under colonial rule in British colonial India. This book, and I won't go too much into the plot, but essentially Perveen's sister-in-law and her brother, who live in the household with her mom and dad and with her, have just had a baby. It's their first baby. She's a newborn. And so some of this book is just dealing with the change in Perveen's life, because she now has a newborn in her household, even though it's not her newborn, and how she feels about that, especially since she can't get married or have children, at least not without suffering immense shame, and also possibly doing damage to doing damage to the reputation of her family. And it also deals with the change in the relationship between her and her sister-in-law, because they have been friends. And this really changes their relationship in some important ways. The mystery at the middle of this book is also very interesting, and this isn't a spoiler, it's part of like the jacket copy, but essentially Perveen sees this woman who is in a line of prisoners going into court one day. She recognizes her as the nanny for a family that she knows, and when she hears that she's been charged with the crime of abortion, she decides to take her on for free, pro bono. And the mystery kind of proceeds from there. What happened here? If this woman did not give herself an abortion, then why did somebody report that she did? These sorts of things. And there's a whole lot more to it that I won't go into just because I don't want to spoil it, and I'm not done with the book yet. But it's a great book. I really, really recommend that you read this series if you have any interest in any of the things I've been talking about. The first one in the series is called The Widows of Malabar House. And again, just really great writing. Sujata Massey clearly did a ton of research into what life would be like living in India at this time as a woman, all of these things. Highly, highly recommend. All right, so that's my update for now. I really appreciate you watching my videos. If you're watching this video, if you like it, please hit the like. If you really like it, please hit the subscribe. Thanks.